I am very excited and I hope you are too, because today's video is about the all-new Toyota RAV4 and we have it for you as the new plug-in hybrid and the new inbuilt hybrid, and in two different trims as well. Here, let's say more the normal version, the normal look, and also the GR Sport, the top sports version. And also front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, so all the variations you can possibly imagine. And how good does it drive? How good is it in comparison to the all-new Mazda CX-5, for example? We'll tell you everything you need to know about the exterior, interior, driving, both versions, all the trims, now with Thomas Nautical Fuel in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. Here with the all-new RAV4, completely new face, starting with this, let's say, base look, which already looks very sporty and has this honeycomb design in the front grille. So this looks like a special sporty version, but this is how a normal one would already look like. Also updated here in this more dynamic lamp shape, for example. And this in here is the hybrid version. Here we have the plug-in hybrid, but you can also switch the styling. So it's not, bound to that, unless it depends on the market, because the GR Sport is on the North American market only available as a plug-in hybrid, whereas in Europe, for example, you can also go a GR Sport when you have the hybrid. So you always have to look at the market specifics. Here the GR Sport has this high gloss black honeycomb scheme then in the lower part, and we also have it here in this striking red color, whereas this one here is called bronze, but it's more silver. Color namings are always very funny. And then you also have here the black Toyota logo here on top. So already tell me in the comments, which styling would you actually prefer? Yes, the North American market only gets the GR Sport and the plug-in, but they, for example, get the Woodlands trim, which has like a similar front grille, but then more an off-road trim, whereas the GR Sport is here like this street sporty trim, so to speak. The length is at 4.60 m or 181 inches, not too big of a change there. And wheels, in some markets they start 17, in the EU they already start 18 inch, and then up to maximum 20 inch. These are the GR Sport black wheels, 20 inch. This is also, as you can see here, the plug-in hybrids, 11 kilowatt AC charging, and optional even 50 kilowatt DC charging. That's interesting. 23 kilowatt gross, 20 kilowatt net battery. And they promise a WLTP, official driving cycle figure, of 137 horsepower for the front-wheel drive plug-in hybrid. That sounds amazing, like 80 miles plus. It will be less in, realistic real-world driving, but we'll find out more about that later. GR Sport then on course here, then with the contrasting black roof, but you can also get the same for the non-GR Sport. High gloss black cladding right here. And we'll soon also talk more about the engines and so on. Here in the rear, new tail lamp signature, very technology focused from the looks, and the lower part with more high gloss black. And here then the GR Sport badge and the plug-in hybrid badge, PHEV. The trunk, I can already tell you so far, here in the plug-in hybrid you lose a little bit of height. We'll soon take a look on the inside. And then with the normal hybrid, you can also see it right here. Even this one has like a high gloss black. This is not the base model. It's a so-called style trim in Europe, and in the North American market, for example, it would be a comparable XSE model. That would be probably the one that comes close to it. And here and then the HEV HEV for the inbuilt hybrid. And then the lower looks, this is way different than here if you don't have the GR Sport. From the exterior look, I have to say, both are pretty cool, I think. I'm not sure yet which I will prefer. I will have to think about this actually. Then as for the technology, there are some differences. So you have front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. In Europe you can get both versions for plug-in and the HEV, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. Some other markets again make some limitations. What's important here is that if you have an all-wheel drive, you have an electric motor, an additional one at the rear axle. And that counts both for the plug-in and for the HEV. And here the GR Sport gets front performance dampers, also different rear suspension, stiffer suspension setup, stiffer steering setup as well, and also more rigidity, a little bit, some for the chassis. That's why, for example, you see it from inside, you can get two different panoramic roofs. And this is like just a very small, tiny glass roof because they say, hey, when you get the GR Sport, you want more chassis rigidity. That's why GR Sport means only small roof to open, and the other one then potentially, not sure if this one has one, we'll have to look, but you can also get a larger one if you don't go for the GR Sport. So yeah, very interesting things to know. Of course, it's mainly a front wheel based platform, and also the main electric motor is also integrated in the front axle. Then it's always a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, either than the plug-in hybrid or the hybrid. The plug-in hybrid with the all-wheel drive trim, which we have right here, additional dampening and so on underneath. This one here accelerates in 5.8 seconds in the all-wheel drive spec. If you go front-wheel drive plug-in, it's a little bit less than 8 seconds, and also the hybrid models, they are also always like in the around 8 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or to 62 miles an hour. So of course it's not a racing car, but I mean with the all-wheel drive plug-in hybrid you can be pretty quick overall. And here you can see then the difference. This is then the normal inbuilt hybrid. If you don't have charging infrastructure, for example, this one here over 300 horsepower, then it's all-wheel drive plug-in hybrid, and here you can see like the orange cables then for the high voltage system. This one will be pretty popular in Europe, also because a lot of countries have special taxation benefits for plug-in hybrids, whereas the inbuilt hybrid will be even more popular still in the States, for example. So yeah, and I'm also eager to drive both to find out more about the differences with these. And one more thing about this combination GR Sport with plug-in hybrid. You remember I said that in the North American market you could only get the GR Sport for the plug-in hybrid. And they sought something, you know, doing that. In Europe we can freely choose, but here GR Sport is also 20 millimeters wider in the track and everything set to sportiness. And the plug-in hybrid is 265 kilograms heavier than the inbuilt hybrid because of the battery, most obviously. And then they thought, hey, that might be a good combination when you have the GR Sport and a stiffer suspension. That should even out the extra weight from the additional plug-in hybrid high voltage battery that the car doesn't shake up, you know. So Toyota thinks of, hey, this is, let's say, like a recommended combination, plug-in hybrid and GR Sport. But if they are right with this recommendation, I'm here to find out. Here, by the way, lamination for the front side window in the plug-in hybrid. And while we're standing here at this different location with a beautiful view, you know, to the countryside here in Andalusia. So such a beautiful landscape here, and great people here as well. And here this avant-garde, the avant-garde bronze vehicle, which to me still looks silver, but still cool color, definitely. And the other was emotional red, by the way, in the GR Sport. So I want to add two personal notes to this review. So first of all, why is it to me so important? Because this is the most sold car in the world in 2025. And it has been a couple of times in the past years, and also by that as well, the most sold SUV in this world. And that's why this review and all these details matter to so many people. And that's why it was also so, or is still also so important to me. And that brings me also to the second aspect, is that I had a long talk with the chief engineer here of this vehicle here, and got to know and got the understanding of how much passion, how much effort they put here in these vehicles, and also to the details. And also this kind of Japanese culture of being thankful and being very diligent and also extremely polite. This really impressed me as well. That's why I also want to make a shout out for that. And that gives me also the impression that they also care about what's happening to the customer. And one detail I want to share with you as well, because I was talking to the chief engineer and I told him, like, wow, this, I can already tell that so far now, this drives so much better than the previous generation. Like, what did you do? Why is that? You know, and then he explained that they worked on the rigidity of the chassis. That's one, counts for all versions. And the second thing, counts for all versions as well. Here, the back wheel. When you are, let's say, in the left corner, then the car would do the move to the right, outside. But then the left wheel here behind is being like a little bit reduced in speed, so that pulls the car back again. And that's why the car is not shaking that much. And even Leah already told me that she was feeling that balance also especially as a passenger in our first driving test here today. So very crucial feature. And then of course with the GR Sport, with the sport suspension, this effect might be even better, and we'll go into the details there very soon. And for me it was that I was showing the respect to Toyota, because in this week we could have potentially gone to 17 other possible car events, but we chose this one because it was so important to me. And Toyota was also so thankful for that. And they also showed their respect, actually, in spending a lot of time and also gathering all our feedback, asking us like what can still be improved with the vehicle. And that shows me again this work ethic and also this personality they put in this vehicle, and that also impressed me a lot. Welcome to the all new interior, and very exciting, 2 different trims coming up right now. First of all, it's like the major thing, new large infotainment here, where you still have physical dials here, colder, warmer, and here also for the temperature. This, by the way, here the control for the fan speed. This is in the screen, but then here for the temperature, then you can at least hit these buttons. So I'm glad to have these still. Heated steering wheel would be here, for example, in the screen, and heated seats. And oh, wow, also cooled seats here. That is actually quite amazing. So that is cool. Glad to see that. And the base, the very base version, for example in North America, would also start with a smaller, like 10-inch screen. This is not available in Europe. And also then like mid-trims start directly with a 13-inch screen with the larger ones here. Soon also more to the digital instruments, which are also large and on the left side. Steering wheel is always animal skin material, as far as I know. Then here it's a little bit softer at the dashboard, for example. And design elements and functionality at the same time here, that you can activate the ESC, for example, or the Sport. ESC Sport basically, and the drive mode selector, and here EV mode is also here already for the HEV. And then these seats, they are very interesting. So this is the Style trim level, or would be an XSE in North America. And there you have microfiber, a very beautiful one in gray, and it's also very soft, good quality, and also for the sit bones, it's actually quite light. So from the looks, these are actually my favorite ones, I have to say. And also the seating comfort in the sit bone area, these are probably the best seats to pick. There's one thing I don't quite understand, because the microfiber material is excellent. The rest is leatherette, so this is an animal-free seat. I would just here, because they have used the perforated leatherette right here, and I think it would have been good if this part here, where you sweat most basically, would also have been the microfiber, So I think that's would have been like a better idea. And even more important is that remark, because the seat cooling here, which is also offered for the seat, which is amazing, is here you can feel it. Here it gets ventilated and very cold, but not here in this area, not here, not here, but here again. So this and this part of the seat is cooled. It's a great luxury feature, don't get me wrong, So but of course, it would be a little bit better if this part, because this part is like we usually get hottest in your back, and then when it's not microfiber here and it's not cooled, then my argument gets maybe a little bit even more important. But then of course you have to think about okay, it's not this 100,000 euro luxury car, and then you start thinking, what can they spend on the seat? And this is already pretty cool to have seat ventilation in this vehicle, definitely, So, and then it would be even more cost if there would be more ventilators here and here, it's a very detailed observation. And then here, headroom 189, 602, still enough left. And this is the one with the closed roof. And as I said, there is a small, roof you can open, and also a bigger one. So both are actually available. Now, let's quickly hop over to the GR Sport. And now to the GR Sport trim. There are of course many more available, but just focusing on these 2 we have available today here. And the GR Sport seats are looking pretty cool with the red accentuations then black microfiber. However, I feel that this is it's stiffer, like the, how it's wrapped around the seat, it is stiffer, and that's why it's also a little bit harder in the sit bone area. What's good that they also have the microfiber here in the back part area, where the other one had the leatherette. However, since it was also cooled, it was actually fine. Does this one, for example, this one only has the seat heating, does not have the seat cooling. So indeed, it's also a nice seat, definitely, but because the other one is even, so I would test only this, I would say it's a comfortable seat, because the other one is even more comfortable. I would probably like prefer than the other one, like the gray microfiber in the Style or XSE with the seat cooling. Yeah, even more comfortable, especially here in this sit bone area. But this one from the looks pretty cool. And then here we have in the GR Sport, this is manual then, this is the small roof you can actually open. Again, the explanation was that they say GR Sport, more chassis rigidity, and that's why they only allow the small roof right here. Yeah, interesting argument. And let's see if we at some point can also find a car with the larger roof or something. Other important details, here the dashboard is, this one is hard pack. This one here is like, you know, style element, some space. This one then here is soft touch, this is nice. Then glove box falls down in a smooth way as well. This one has different buttons than here, trail and snow and normal here. This is the plug-in hybrid version. Here once again drive mode, and there you can also switch with the EV modes. Usually let the car do its thing. Here, this is an inductive charging pad. It's not ventilated though, so the phone might overheat. But you can also charge USB. It's 15 watt only, however, so there are meanwhile also USB-C chargers with more power. Then this is the integrated shifting lever, same for the HEV and the plug-in hybrid, small integration. And here, adaptive cup holders. This is more like a rugged design. You can also take this one out if you like. Then you have the middle arm reach, which, yeah, could be softer, honestly. You can open it in... Really? Who had this car before? I hate stuff like that. Why do people do that? You know, so best greetings to whoever was having this car before. Now a couple of 100,000 people saw your trash. Yeah, gotta say that out loud at some point, you know. In my car, everything is always clean and tidy. So I want to, you know, continue with the good, you know, like showing how it's done.
Also at home.
And also at home.
Thomas is a good husband and also clean our home. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. When Leah says that I'm a clean husband, that is like the ultimate thing, because Leah is, you know, like, you know, very tidy things up and so on. So she's even more strict than me. So that's a good match then. So, but this one here, you can also open to the other side. And now you maybe heard the strange sounds, because you can also take it out entirely and then just like throw it out. Yeah, I mean, you could theoretically drive like this, but here you can also flip it around like this. And then you, there we go. You have like an open tray and have some picnic in here. When it's a clean picnic, you know, and we don't leave trash in the car and so on, right? Maybe we can agree on that then. Here, by the way, we have the JBL sound system. It's an option, 9-speaker then. Then also the trunk is a little bit limited at the side, maybe, you know, that's one thing. And then here, steering wheel, GR Sport, also difference. Red contrast stitching on the inside, and then you have the perforation at the side. Say like for grabbing it, it's a little bit more comfortable and sporty at the same time when you have the perforations at the side. And what I also prefer here, but that's for all trims, we have still real buttons at the steering wheel to deactivate the lane keeping assist and so on. And here, left side, volume. And interesting to know is also here for the EU speed chime law, press this once and then this beep, beep, beep is gone. So Toyota has also introduced that now in the recent models, and that's very good. I always, by the way, put the dark mode in here. So this looks a little bit more sophisticated than for the GPS. And driver POV, here looking to the digital instruments. They are of course larger now. You can also here have the map on the inside. This is the car internal map. And you could also get here this head-up display. I don't know if you see that, but Toyota intentionally put like a matte surface to this instrument panel against glare, against the sun. Is a good idea, however, this also makes the display a little bit less crisp in the visual quality if you compare it to like a clear display. And it also seems that this matte display you may also see it right there maybe, it's like a dust magnet as well. This is here the Apple CarPlay integration. By the way, the cable connection is not here, it's not there. You need to use the cable connection underneath there. Then it does connect with the cable. You can also do it wireless, the connection, but I prefer it with the cable. And here what's now also working is when you have CarPlay and then Apple Maps or Waze, or Android Auto with Google Maps. It's not flickering, by the way, in real life, just on camera. Here you can also have then the maps mirrored in the digital instruments. Oh, Leah's watching Modern Family again. Now rear seats, by the way, in all versions here, you have like a, it's not too soft here, but you have a nice structure and the surface is soft. Let's take it that way. And a little bit softer here. Once again, we jump back to the other trim to show some difference. This interior is a little bit lighter on the inside. Headroom in the rear, also with 189, 602, no problem at all. Here you can have cargo position like this, or more upright or more laid back. So both is possible. Legroom, you still have some legroom. Here's a tall L, so good usage of space. 215-watt supply again, could be a little bit more. No, but in general, I think it's a comfortable seating position. It's really relaxed. So maybe I would even drive with the more upright position. Is it 2 steps or was it 3? See, 1. No, it's 2. It's 2. So sometimes you can actually even drive in this position, maybe. Yeah, it depends on. And yeah, once again, I really have to say that the gray microfiber here is a little bit softer just in the surface. So to me, a little bit more likable. And then here we have some covers. They are not adaptive, though. Gotta say that. Yeah, here, for example, like build quality wise, here I can just like lift up this rear bench. This is maybe something they could still improve. But the comfort is really very nice here. And now the battle of the trunks is on. We have 445 liters for the plug-in, 550 liters for the inbuilt hybrid. But what difference does it make? Here the plug-in hybrid has here a small step. Here this, and then underneath there is more space here, but then it goes a little bit higher like this, and the height, this will be the little bit of difference, 77 centimeters, yeah, a little bit more than 30 inches. And then we directly switch over, because this is the main difference here. The inbuilt hybrid is here. This was the plug-in. Then we have here 2 centimeters more in height. So this is like really 31 inches. So this is the difference where the inbuilt hybrid is higher in the trunk. Here underneath, there's more space also here in this area then. So this is the main difference. Other than that, we have the width. Like this part here is this is like a meter now, and then the meter goes here, but way wider here between the wheel arches, and the standard length is almost a meter or 40 inches. And then we can fold the seats. This caveat, by the way, I mean, it's flying around here. You always have to hit then left and right properly. And then we can fold from here already if you reach over like this, 2/3, 1/3 split. Maybe that way you can see that. Oh, that's nice here. They thought of this cover then here, the way that when it folds, that this is covered, and not that some blueberries fly in there or something like that. And then to the front seats, this is here 1.85 meters or 73 inches. So no matter which version you pick, the trunk is very well usable. And also look at that here, also like how the cutout is. So this is a very practical cutout. Here, and what I also found out in the inbuilt hybrid, here you can also lift this one and then put it here in this lower position. Then you can gain even a little bit more in overall height. Pricing, the Northern American prices are without VAT, and cars are usually also a little bit cheaper there. So there you start at $32,000 for the HEV and $42,000 for the plug-in hybrid. Then when we look at the EU market, which also doesn't start with the lowest trims, so they have VAT in the prices, and then they also are a little bit higher in the trims, and cars are in general a little bit more expensive there. And there we have the entry price of 44,000 euros for the inbuilt hybrid in Germany and 50,000 euros for the plug-in hybrid. And then you can add some 10K each on all the price if you go like full spec, you know, for all. That means that the car as it's standing right here now, so the plug-in hybrid, all-wheel drive, GR Sport, is already then in Europe, for example, a little bit over 60,000 euros. Still, the prices, because also like the yen exchange rate and so on, weren't too bad if you consider some other manufacturers and so on. But you can really fine-tune this vehicle here because the span is quite wide. There are not too many options, you know, but you can really choose between like, do you need all-wheel drive, do you need the GR Sport, do you need the plug-in hybrid or not, and so on. And there can be the case where the plug-in hybrid might be higher in the list price, but better than in the taxation. Let's start driving the all-new Toyota RAV4. What I directly realize here, starting in some slow driving, of course, plug-in hybrid drivetrain, at least when the battery is at least somewhat charged. We drive all electric, so this is the closest you can get to an all-electric RAV4 at this moment, and you sit extremely high. So this one still gives you an original SUV driving feeling and SUV driving position. So you really sit high above the road, have also very good visibility. Also, for example, good overview over the front hood and so on. And when you're especially driving around town, you have the battery charged. It's always nice that it's always very, very silent from the outside and from the inside. That's what we already feel right now. Here we can also go in some B roads, see also about the suspension. Oh yeah, you feel we have here the combination of 20-inch wheels and also this stiffer suspension setup in the GR Sport. So you have to like that. Yeah, I feel that. When the road is even, it's all fine. But here now we are in this B road, and here Leah's already. So this is a very good test. We can drive the very same road also with the non-GR Sport suspension to see the difference. Beautiful view here in southern Spain here today, and Andalusia. You have the right Spanish pronunciation. It's a nice bike they got there. Yeah, I'm also like a two-wheel drive fan, and this is a very good road here to test the suspension because it got a lot maybe like roots from the ground and so on. And there you feel that first good finding here, when you're often driving on bad roads, then the GR Sport suspension is definitely not ideal. It's better than to stick with the normal suspension. But the cool thing is you also have a good overview. That's why I can also imagine that going off-road is a very nice idea, and you can still do that with this vehicle, of course. You can very much fine-tune it also with the throttle here in the electric driving mode. So the electric driving mode is a very, very likable mode here, of course. And I'm also looking forward to if it will feel similar with the normal hybrid drivetrain. And now, still winding roads up and down and everything, but we have better roads now, so not that destroyed and so on. And here is where the GR Sport suspension does all the good job. So this is really interesting to see and to feel, and I still know how the previous generation was driving, and this one is a lot of fun. So when the road is not destroyed, then you are very happy about the stiffer GR Sport suspension. It's a very interesting way of doing traffic here. Because then left and right and so on is even more fun. The steering is very light. I mean, it feels off-road car-like. And although driving-wise here there's a GR Sport, it doesn't feel like an off-road car, but the steering is easy, light to control. Maybe I would wish a little bit more feedback. It says that in the GR Sport it has more feedback, so we'll also compare that with the other version very soon. Wow, and I really gotta say, these tight corners here are a lot of fun, and I really have to say, yes, plop. When you have some transverse bumps and so on, yeah, it's stiffer. But on the other hand, if you maybe don't have a problem with bad roads and so on, and you more like the sportiness, this really feels sporty now. So I gotta say that this is the most fun the RAV4 has been so far. It's really fun to drive, feels nice, feels sporty. I just love driving it. That's pretty cool, and it's also important to me because this is a car that is the best seller worldwide and matters to so many people, and you don't need like a super double, triple the price sports SUV to have fun driving in an SUV. So that's a very, very important aspect here, and I'm really very excited how the non-GR Sport will soon drive. I know how the old plug-in hybrid has been driving, but here, will we feel the extra weight here? I mean, this one here, 265 kilograms more than the inbuilt hybrid, but they have put the battery more centered that you do not feel it. And I would at this moment really say that I don't feel like an additional extra weight or so on, because it feels so light, it feels so nice to drive in these different driving modes, by the way. So here, just all the time in electric mode, but even when we're driving uphill, it has a lot of power in the pure electric plug-in hybrid driving mode. That's fine, and you can play around with that. You can also here go to the sport mode. It would still at first keep it in the all-electric mode. Only when you switch these modes here, you can go to the HEV mode, then it would start the engine, and now we have the power of both hearts basically. So now when I'm hitting the throttle, you also hear something from the engine, but it's still well insulated. And then I can press it again. I'm in the EV mode. Then again, would predominantly use only electric driving, or in the auto mode. It's the third mode. Then the car more and more decides for itself, like which is the correct mode at this mode. What the? Ooh. They are sometimes really fast here, so you gotta watch it or need like a good co-driver as well to check this one out. And yeah, but once again, only in electric mode. It drives really smooth. Closest, as I said, you can get this mode to get a full RAV4 EV as for that. So, wow, definitely two very good findings already. So, in bad roads, GR Sport suspension too rough. But when you have even roads, so much fun to drive. Most fun the RAV4 has been in driving so far. And now plug-in hybrid acceleration, dual power with both drivetrains from 60. Let's go. Plop. 120. So that was 60 to 120 kilometers an hour. Very good. So that was 5.8 seconds is 0 to 100. So this is the most powerful RAV4 we have seen so far. And we have the dual insulation is here, yeah. I wouldn't say I hear much wind noise, but it's also rough tarmac, but there's a lot of rolling noise from underneath. So we have to see if we maybe find on the other side some other tarmac and so on, but it's quite rough from the road noise definitely at these higher speeds. Here again on the motorway at higher speeds, the GR Sport suspension helps us. So looking forward also how that one compares then with the other one. And here when I'm also, for example, doing a lane change, the car is more stable. So once again, for nicely built roads and for higher speeds, this GR Sport does a good job. Might be also a good thing for the German Autobahn then, when you have just this, increased stability while driving. So that's actually a pretty cool thing. Could be more silent, definitely at higher speeds. That's one thing. Let's see also what difference it makes when you don't have the dual insulation right there. But it gives me like good stability from the suspension. Here also with the 20-inch wheels, of course, there can't be any stiffer setup in that sense. And we can also go back to the more relaxed mode or auto modes, normal mode. And let's also test the cruise control. Here's at cruise control, and we can also activate the lane keeping assist. And let's see how the blind spot monitor also in the mirrors there. And then let's see, you can also set the speed more up and down. Now the motorway is doing like this slight right bend. Yes, we can also easily make it a little bit warmer, as Lee has shown with hitting the buttons. Let's see how smooth the car is reacting or not. Yeah, some minor corrections here, but it's definitely way better than before. So they also made step up the game in the assistance systems. Let's see a transverse bump. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit back and forth from steering, but that's definitely a big improvement. So far, so good. So also improvement, yeah, here a little bit back and forth, but definitely noticeable improvement here as for the assistance systems. So that's actually also a good thing. As for the fuel economy consumption, with the plug-in hybrid, we could score some in pure electric driving, also with the motorway and so on. So like a realistic range of about 20-21 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. So it's like 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Means with this new battery pack here, you can realistically drive about close to maybe a little bit less than 100 kilometers or 60 miles on the pure electric one. That's actually already quite good. So increase in efficiency and also in the battery capacity. And if the plug-in hybrid is empty from the battery, or I mean, it won't be like 100% empty, you always have like a little bit buffer then. Also when you're rolling down, recuperation again, then you have maybe like slight electric boost. You drive it more or less just like the inbuilt hybrid, which we'll soon drive then. And there you can also score some 6 liters on 100 kilometers as for the petrol consumption. So like 40 mpg US, 47 mpg UK. But now even more interesting, switching back, or to the other model then, away from the GR Sport, away from the plug-in hybrid with the non-GR Sport and the inbuilt hybrid. And did you notice? This one here, by the way, was not the car that we've been driving. This one is also an inbuilt hybrid, just with the GR Sport, which is available in Europe. So we're driving the hybrid very soon now, but not the GR Sport. Let's compare the suspension, the seating comfort, also the efficiency of the hybrid drivetrain, and how does it drive overall? Better or worse or same? Let's go. And now the full hybrid acceleration, sport mode. That was 60 to 120 kilometers an hour, slightly downhill here, however. And you do feel a difference, yes. So, especially from a German perspective, you sometimes wish a little bit more punch then. For most situations it will be fine, but definitely you feel a difference when you have the plug-in hybrid and the battery is is at a state where it can really help to the full power. Gotta bear in mind that if you have the plug-in hybrid and the battery is depleted, it won't be quicker than this one. So gotta bear that in mind. And also here, very exciting, we have the 20-inch wheels mounted and not the GR Sport suspension. Here this is then the front-wheel drive hybrid, no GR Sport, and we do feel that because when doing a lane change here, it's still fine, and it also drives more stable than the predecessor because they have worked on the chassis stiffness, the rigidity. But the performance dampers here on the motorway do a good job in keeping the car even straighter and for a little bit sportier feeling. If you drive a little bit slower and just run straight, then you might say, hey, I don't care. Maybe I even prefer the softer dampers. I'm looking forward soon to our bumpy road test, if this will be much more comfortable with this one we're driving right here. Especially for the passengers, it's of course a little bit better that the GR Sport keeps the car more upright, and also the seats are more comfortable in the sit bone area and they are more open. So the GR Sport seats, they keep you tighter. So maybe a little bit less comfort in the sit bone area, but then they're keeping you tighter. Once again, also good for the passenger especially. I can hold on to the steering wheel. And what we also noticed is that all the plug-in hybrid models have the lamination in the windows. And here, once again, most noise is coming from underneath the vehicle, from the road noise. However, now I also hear some wind noise here. The road noise is still the more dominant noise we're hearing. Yes, definitely. However, in the plug-in hybrid, since we had the lamination, I didn't hear the wind noise at all at the similar speed here, 120 kilometers an hour. So this is something to consider if you're driving higher speeds. More often the plug-in hybrid is then more silent because of this insulation, additional insulation on these acoustic windows. So here you hear some wind noise here from the sides, but again the worst part is definitely the road noise, which is then just more prominent. But in general, the general modifications, general improvement for this vehicle, you still feel it here in the non-GR Sport version. Just that the GR Sport then sets a sportiness on top. Here on the motorway, I think the noise insulation for the plug-in hybrid plays a role, definitely. And if you want to drive sporty on the motorway, even at higher speeds, then the GR Sport is the way to go. If you drive a little bit slower, just straight, then you are as happy than with this version. Still, to me, a little bit too loud at 120 kilometers an hour at 75 miles an hour. I would say, test the speed here at about 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. That is a very nice, pleasant traveling speed here also from the rolling noise from underneath the vehicle. And now the rough road test here, where it's really uncomfortable from the road wise. And we have it here with the non-GR Sport suspension. I mean, it's still shaky and rough.
It's better.
Yeah.
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 First 2 seconds, I feel it.
Yeah, Leah said that first. Yeah, indeed. So rough road here is better without the GR Sport suspension, definitely. The only thing I feel as a driver here, the knee pads in the GR Sport are better, and here is just hard pack. at the middle console. So then my knee is hitting that hard middle console, which is softer than in the GR Sport, if I remember correctly. But suspension-wise, yeah, definitely more comfort than here if you don't have the GR Sport. So it's really pro and con, and it's about the use case. If you have more Autobahn, motorway use case, and if you have nice roads, and if you want to drive it sporty and want to have a lot of fun, then the GR Sport it is. And if you have a lot of rough road cases and you have more going straight and need this extra comfort, or maybe have some soft off-road cases and so on, then one of the base or mid trims it is. So yeah, very interesting to find out these differences. But how much less sportiness or maybe less fun do we get in winding corners? And now when the road is a little bit better again, what about the winding corners and the driving fun here with the hybrid and also without GR Sport suspension? So one more thing I want to say to this, like, you know, off-road driving situations, or here we have like some water when the tire's a little bit wet, and then when, for example, you accelerate uphill, and then here, for example, here, see here, like the tires were a little bit wet, and there was like some lines in the road, and they were like a little bit sliding. And also when you have destroyed road, the tires might be like stamping with the front wheel drive, or like bop, 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 bop. And then this is a situation where you would need the all-wheel drive. You know, when you have situations like these, good to know, then you need the all-wheel drive version to have that support then also from the rear axle. But here, when the road is even, driving uphill, you hear now the engine, because yes, in the inbuilt hybrid you also have a lot of electric driving moments in city driving and so on. However, driving uphill, then the engine usually hops on. And then, of course, the pure electric driving experience here, for example, is off again, then it's on again. And there, the pure plug-in hybrid driving, pure EV driving experience is a little bit more pleasant and more, let's say, sophisticated, as long as the battery allows that, of course. And then here's some agile driving with nice road, is you still feel that the car is better to drive than the predecessor. So it feels sporty, it feels more rigid, it feels more fun to drive, definitely. So it's a huge improvement for all versions. Even if you go for a base version, you will profit from these changes. And as I said, talk to the engineer with this here. Here, for example, when you go like left-hand corner, then the left back inner wheel is being reduced a little bit in speed, that the car is being pulled to that inside of the corner and it doesn't lean to the outside, actually. So this is a good improvement, really helps in driving more agile, but at the same time that the car doesn't lean that much, and it's also more comfortable than for the passenger. So that's pretty cool. Good improvement we have then here, and definitely more fun to drive. Gotta say though, the GR Sport is even more fun to drive, and it's the more, let's say, unique vehicle in the way of this is really much more driving fun. But what's clear, and I'm soon also going to talk about the difference Mazda CX-5 and VW Tiguan, can already tell you so far in driving, the CX-5 was the SUV that always drove better than the RAV4. And the same also counted for the VW Tiguan. And now this driving fun difference is is a little bit diminished, because the RAV4 now also drives very, very well, very nicely. So this is a huge step forward. And if you go then for the GR Sport, you really have a very fun SUV. So this is already somewhat fun, and the GR Sport then is really a fun SUV, definitely, to drive. And then the consumption fuel economy of the inbuilt hybrid is basically the same like you would drive the plug-in hybrid with depleted battery. About 6 liters on 1 kilometers, 40 mpg US, 47 mpg UK. So yeah, as efficient as ever. And what about like this general conclusion, and also in comparison, Mazda CX-5, VW Tiguan. The CX-5 is a especially large competitor in the US, alongside the Honda CR-V as well, and the VW Tiguan is like this, prime SUV in the sales in Europe, for example, and of course there are many more competitors, but just to pick a few of them. So I told you a little bit about it in the driving part already. The RAV4 was so far, like, it's always very efficient and it has a lot of space on the inside and it's reliable from the engines and so on. But it was never the car that you would pick because it's fun to drive. But now it is. And that's, I think, the crucial change with this generation here. So far, you would pick the CX-5 over the RAV4 or the Tiguan over the RAV4 because they were clearly more fun to drive. They're still fun to drive, you know, and they have also, you know, good features. But this one now can really not only keep up in the GR Sport trim, where you do lose a little bit of comfort, yes, but it's so much fun to drive in the GR Sport trim. I was really amazed by that. Such a huge leap in comparison to the predecessor. And that's the cool thing here for the finding for today. Indeed, GR Sport with the performance dampers is the most fun version. You lose a little bit of comfort in rough roads, yes, but then again, it depends on what you really want. And if you have more soft off-road situations and so on, then you of course rather go not for the GR Sport version. And if you go for the plug-in hybrid or the inbuilt hybrid, might depend on taxation, might depend on entry price, what's then cheaper, you know, with all things considered for you. The plug-in hybrid is of course more sophisticated because it can drive pure electric on a longer period of time, and they achieved also great efficiency in that respect there. So for us, for example, in Germany, we would go for the plug-in hybrid because even if it's higher in the entry price, when you count taxation into account, then it would still be cheaper to me, you know, and I also have a little bit more sophisticated experience. But there are other markets that will appreciate the inbuilt hybrid more, and also, for example, if you don't have charging infrastructure. At the same time, the prices remain the same, or sometimes at some point even got lower because of the yen exchange price, for example. So this is then a very attractive offer. CX-5 is still a very attractive offer as well. In some aspects, it's also sometimes even cheaper. It depends on the market. For example, in Europe, then the CX-5 is a little bit cheaper as well. They both offer a lot of space. CX-5 has also gained in length. This one here has more real buttons, physical buttons on the interior than the CX-5 now. Strange things, right, that happened to Mazda. The VW Tiguan also has its strength. It's definitely more expensive, you know, even especially in comparable trims. The 2-valve DCC dampers are also pretty cool, and there are certain interior details that are maybe a little bit more sophisticated than here. But the question is if you want to pay like a higher price for that, and definitely you don't have to go for a Tiguan now. If you want fun in driving, you can easily go for the RAV4. So to me, it's pretty clear why this one is the most sold car in the world, because it just delivers. It's also reliable. And by the way, they are also starting to, told me also as well, that they also increased the capacity of the 12-volt battery now a little bit, because there's this issue that when you have the full hybrids, like standing 3-4 weeks in the basement garage or something and then return again, that the 12-volt battery has a tendency to, you know, to be depleted because of dark current. So they are working on this issue now as well, and hopefully it's already better than with this generation here. So that's also a side note. And second side note, this 45-watt charger USB in the front, you only get in one highest trim. All other have the 15-watt. That's another detailed side note. Yeah, but overall again, great performance. Really liked the driving here today, and I'm pretty sure it will continue its success. And now it's time to check out the competitor reviews.